K-drama Haven family. Some nights are ordinary. Some nights are memorable. But once in a lifetime, there comes a night so unforgettable, so legendary, that it changes the way we see our stars forever. And that night was Fashion Week in Paris. Because when Yulong and Mei Mei stepped into the spotlight, they didn't just attend the event. They owned it. The build-up. Fashion Week is always a spectacle. The world's top designers, the biggest celebrities, the flashiest runways. But this year, there was a strange buzz in the air. Whispers spread through the crowd. Have you heard? Yulong might attend. No way. I heard Mei Mei's name too. Both of them? At the same show? That would break the internet. Fans, already gathered outside, clutched their cameras tighter. Photographers sharpened their lenses. Stylists checked and rechecked their guest lists. Something big was coming. Everyone felt it. The entrance. The lights dimmed slightly at the venue doors. The music softened. And then he appeared. Yulong. Tall. Regal. His black velvet suit shimmered with an understated elegance, every detail perfectly tailored. The crowd gasped not just because of his looks, but because of his aura. He didn't walk into the room. He commanded it. And then, as the flashes intensified, the moment came. Mei Mei, dressed in a breathtaking silver gown, the kind that didn't just sparkle, it glowed. The fabric caught the light like liquid metal, flowing around her as if she were gliding, not walking. Her crown braid hairstyle framed her face like a painting, her gaze serene yet powerful. And then the impossible happened. They didn't enter separately. They walked in together, side by side, steps in sync, as if rehearsed by destiny itself. The shockwave. The reaction was instant. Fans screamed. Journalists fumbled to capture the moment. Even celebrities sitting front row whispered to each other in disbelief. One reporter was heard muttering, "Forget the runway, they are the show." The venue, buzzing just moments before, fell into stunned silence, broken only by the relentless clicking of cameras. Yulong glanced briefly at Mei Mei, the corner of his mouth curving into a faint smile. She tilted her head slightly toward him, her silver gown brushing against his velvet sleeve. It was subtle. It was quiet. But to fans watching, it was everything. The internet explodes. By the time the two reached their seats, social media had already gone into meltdown. Twitter. Yulong and Mei Mei at Fashion Week together? This is history. The visuals, I have no words. Just tears. Weibo. Hashtag Yulong Mei Mei hit 3 million posts within an hour. Hashtag royal visuals trended at #1. TikTok. Fan cams of their entrance hit 1 million views before the show even ended. Edits of Yulong adjusting Mei Mei's gown trended with captions like, "Protective King Energy." Instagram. Every fashion page, from Vogue to Elle, captioned their joint photo with a single word, iconic. The fashion breakdown. Let's pause and talk about the fashion. Yulong's look. A deep black velvet suit by Tom Ford, cut to perfection. The sleek lines accentuated his tall frame, while the subtle shimmer under the runway lights gave him a royal aura. His choice of a minimalist watch and polished shoes was deliberate, understated because he was the statement. Mei Mei's look. A custom silver gown by Saab. The gown flowed like molten metal, reflecting light in soft waves. The neckline was bold yet elegant, paired with diamond earrings so delicate they looked like falling stars. Her makeup was soft, but her eyes carried intensity. Together, they weren't just models of style. They were the definition of power. The chemistry. But here's what shook fans even more than the fashion. The chemistry. Yulong's subtle glances, protective, watchful. Mei Mei's gentle smiles, the kind that suggested comfort, familiarity, maybe even something unspoken. At one point, a fan cam captured Yulong leaning slightly toward her as she adjusted her gown. His hand moved, instinctively, as if ready to help, but he stopped just short, a gentleman's hesitation. The crowd screamed anyway. It wasn't just an appearance. It was a story. Behind-the-scenes whispers. Insiders began whispering after the show. One stylist revealed, "We knew they would both attend, but no one told us they'd walk in together. That was a complete surprise." A photographer admitted, "When they stepped through those doors, the energy changed. I've been to 20 fashion weeks. I've never seen a reaction like that." And then came the speculation. Was this coordinated? Did the designers plan it? Or was it personal? The romance rumors. Fans, of course, had their own theories. There's no way this was random. They came as a couple. You can see it in their eyes. The way Yu Long looked at her. "I don't care what anyone says. That's not acting. If they're not dating, then the universe just paired them for us." Tabloids fed the fire, publishing headlines like, "Yu Long and Mei Mei, Fashion Week's secret couple?" Neither confirmed, neither denied. And that silence only made the rumors louder. The aftermath. The show ended, but the buzz did not. Even days later, articles were still being written. Fashion critics called it the moment of the season. Fans declared it the royal entrance. One global magazine summed it up perfectly. Yu Long and Mei Mei didn't walk into Fashion Week. They redefined it. And that's the truth. Because their appearance wasn't just about fashion. It was about power, about presence, about the kind of magic that happens only once in a generation. The legacy. Yu Long, Mei Mei. They came. They stunned. They conquered. Whether they are just friends, secret lovers, or simply co-stars bound by fate, one thing is undeniable. Fashion Week 2025 will forever be remembered as their night. Because moments fade. Outfits are forgotten. But legends? Legends are written in nights like this. And together, Yu Long and Mei Mei didn't just attend Fashion Week. They became part of its history. The lights may have dimmed after Fashion Week, but the story of Yu Long and Mei Mei was only just beginning. Because what happened on that night in Paris did not stay in Paris. It followed them across oceans, across time zones, and across every digital screen in the world. The next morning, newspapers carried their photos side by side. Fashion critics described their entrance as the moment that eclipsed every other guest. What was supposed to be just another event became a turning point. For weeks, the internet had only one question: what exactly happened between Yu Long and Mei Mei? The silence that spoke louder than words. After that night, neither Yu Long nor Mei Mei issued a statement. No press release, no social media post, no carefully crafted caption. Just silence. But silence is dangerous in the world of entertainment. Fans began to fill in the blanks themselves. They replayed videos, dissected glances, slowed down clips of the way Yu Long seemed to guide her through the crowd. One frame at a time, fans created their own story. And to them, the story was clear. This was not coincidence. This was connection. The birth of a global obsession. Soon, their faces were everywhere. Fashion magazines debated who wore it best. Style blogs called them the definition of modern royalty. Even television anchors used their appearance as a closing segment, asking viewers, "Are we witnessing the rise of a new power duo?" On social media, their chemistry became a trend of its own. Thousands of fan-made edits transformed their entrance into cinematic trailers. Others imagined them as characters in a romance drama, their Fashion Week walk serving as the opening scene. And while the internet argued over what it all meant, one truth was undeniable. The public had chosen them. Yu Long and Mei Mei were no longer just stars. They were symbols. Behind the curtains. But inside the industry, the whispers were even louder. Producers and casting directors began to make calls. Could they be cast together in a drama? Could a movie be built around them? Would brands dare to pair them in campaigns, knowing the risk and the reward? The demand was undeniable. Agencies were cautious, but everyone knew the truth. Yu Long and Mei Mei were no longer just individuals. They were a package. The emotional pull. And maybe that is why the story would not die down. Because it was never only about clothes or fashion. It was about the way Yu Long looked at her with something more than politeness. It was about the way Mei Mei leaned ever so slightly toward him, as if she trusted him to steady the world around her. These were small details, almost invisible. Yet when magnified through the lens of a million fans, they became proof of something deeper. The legacy of that night. Weeks passed. Other celebrities came and went. Other headlines rose and fell. But the memory of that entrance, the image of those two side by side, never faded. Ask anyone who was there and they will tell you, the show had models, it had music, it had designs. But none of that mattered. The only thing people remember is Yulong and young Mei Mei walking in as though the world had been waiting for them. And perhaps in some way it had. Because some appearances are scripted. Some appearances are planned. But then there are those rare, unscripted moments that leave an imprint on history. That night, Yulong and young Mei Mei did not just attend Fashion Week. They rewrote it. And the question that still lingers is this: was that their first chapter, or just a preview of what is still to come?